Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment, like and share the program so that your friends can join in the conversation. Now, also, if you haven't already done so, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. And in both cases, make sure you hit the notification button so that you can be alerted as soon as these videos go live and you can participate in the live chat as the program is going on. Also want to encourage you, if you haven't already done so, please make sure to visit fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. It is the place to go to find all sorts of cool Pro 2A swag. I'm talking t-shirts, coffee mugs, hoodies, you name it. They're all right there at fpcgear.com. And the best part about it is every dollar that you spend goes right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. So you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. That's fpcgear.com. All right, moving right along. So you guys all know, we've been covering this now has to be ever since the program has started. Kind of the, how shall we say, the corporate war on our fundamental right to keep and bear arms. How there seems to be companies, whether they are banks or finance companies or internet companies, or now in this case, clothing companies, that are going out of their way in order to seem socially responsible, in order to fight to take away or contributing to fight to take away our right to keep and bear arms. One such company is Levi Strauss. Now, you guys might remember they committed to putting a large sum of money up against or into organizations like Everytown that are seeking, or Moms Demand Action, that are seeking to take away our fundamental right to keep and bear arms. Well, there was an article not too long ago in Breitbart where they were talking about this very fundamental thing, because what a lot of people don't realize is, well, let's just be honest. These corporations represent shareholders. And those shareholders, well, they kind of have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that they take care of those shareholders. And clearly they are not, as was pointed out by my good friend, Mr. David Almasi, over at the National Center for Policy Research, who's with us today to talk a little bit about Levi Strauss and their anti-gun policies. David, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Craig. Thanks for having us on.
Excellent. Excellent. So do me a favor and share with our audience kind of your perspective, what you see in regards to this policy and what Levi Strauss is doing with their investment policy.
Sure. The National Center has a group called the Free Enterprise Project, and it's the goal of the Free Enterprise Project to keep corporations true to the free market principles that made them great. And as such, we visit a lot of these publicly traded companies during shareholder season and bring up salient questions. Usually, sometimes it's a pat on the back. A lot of times, especially including this case with Levi Strauss, was to point out where they have strayed and where we would like them to go in order to keep up with the free market. And in this case, it was their gun policy. They have even though their job is making clothes, they are giving a significant amount of money, at least $1 million, to their own Safer Tomorrow fund that will then be sent out to groups like, as you said, Everytown for Gun Safety and other groups related to Michael Bloomberg and things like that. But they're also letting their employees do volunteer work on company time for the issue of taking away guns. And so what we did at the National Center through the Free Enterprise Project was we commissioned a poll of people nationwide to find out what their views would be about Levi Strauss had they known, when they knew about the gun policy. And we started out asking them the question, what do you think about Levi Strauss? Iconic American jeans maker, what are your opinions? 89% said favorable. But then when we followed up saying, hey, do you know that they're actually campaigning against the Second Amendment? Do you know that they're giving money to groups and allowing their employees to go do things that will compromise your ability to own and keep guns? And it fell from 89% favorability to 63% favorability. That's wow. A huge loss.
Yes.
And then the follow-up question was, does this affect your ideas about buying from Levi's in the future? if you needed jeans, are you going to go to Levi's or are you going to go to Wrangler or something else? And again, 63% said that they would consider buying their jeans elsewhere in the future. And this also includes Dockers, this includes Denizen clothing. Across the board, this is a significant hit to the reputation of the company. And that's what we brought up at the meeting.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I've found myself before this, but especially after I saw this article even more, it's like I started to notice that there were items that I'm in the store, and when I'm thinking if I have an alternative between a product being sold by someone who's fighting against my rights and someone who's not, I have an option. And so I'm telling you, I've literally put this into practice. I made a decision to buy this instead of this. Now you can't always do that, but when you can, to me, it's vitally important that you do. But getting back, and one of the things I wanted to ask you about was now help people understand. When these first of all, these corporate officers, they're not the owners of the company. That's not like a private, a sole proprietorship where they're the only ones affected. These people are put in place and hired. They're supposed to have a fiduciary responsibility. How does such a policy affect their fiduciary responsibility?
Well, one of the things you could say about Levi's is they just went public. They were a public company back in the 80s, up until the 80s. They bought their shares back and went private. They just went public again this year, which means they just issued stock that investors could buy to get a stake in the company. And that's what the National Center did. The Free Enterprise Project has shares in Levi Strauss, which allows us to makes us investors and allows us to have a say. And now, before we get even further, I'll just mention there's a lot of conservative companies that people complain about, the left complains about: Koch Industries, Hobby Lobby, Chick-fil-A. Those are all private companies. So it's a whole different ballgame. These are companies that that the public can invest in, and as such can address their concerns or their praise to the corporate leadership. And that's what happened. We went to the first shareholder meeting of the newly public Levi's was held about a month ago today in San Francisco at their corporate headquarters. And that's where we brought this up. And when I said earlier, I mean, this was a corporate culture that they had before they went public, but it's a corporate culture that is going to hurt investment in the company. And that's why we brought it up.
Right. And that's the thing. And once again, if you're investing in a company, you need to know that there's a chance that your investment is now going to be hurt. You're not going to, your earnings are going to be hurt because they're taking a policy that is unpopular with probably a significant percentage of their potential customer base.
Exactly. I mean, you've got they've got three real big divisions. There's the jeans division, there's the Dockers, which is the khakis, and then there's the Denizen clothing, which goes to the younger people. And in our poll, I said 63% said they had a problem, that their image of the company was affected by it. In the Midwest, it was 75% said that they had less interest in buying their clothes. In the South, it was 59%. It was almost 50% or more among every demographic, and that includes millennials, that includes Gen X. And among the baby boomers, it was over 71% said that they were not interested in buying Levi's anymore after hearing about the gun policy. So it's certainly something, as you said before, when you have so many options out there to buy for denim or for khakis or for other things, you need to watch the market. And one of the things I brought up when I was at the meeting is the denim market, the clothing market actually in general, is not the most, it's a very tight market these days.
Yeah.
And so putting yourself out there and making yourself distinctive in that way, especially when denim is something the blue collar crowd is clamoring for, you are putting yourselves in a danger zone.
Mm. Now, are you seeing in the work that you're doing? Are you seeing a greater increase in companies that are taking taking political stands on hot button issues?
Absolutely, it's amazing how the corporate sector is becoming the muscle for the political left. And my colleague Justin Danhoff talks about it from a perspective of it's top down, where the executive C-suite people are already of a mindset where they can accept this. It's bottom up in that the talent within the company, especially the millennial talent that doesn't really have the dedication to a company that they used to have, that's a factor. And then there's the outside in. There's the outside pressure groups, like let's say the Human Rights Campaign, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Everytown for Gun Safety, groups from the outside that are pressuring these companies to make a position on LGBTQ, LMNOP issues, on gun issues, on trade issues. Well, trade issues is actually a part of the company, but they're asking them to make more decisions and stands outside of their real corporate purview. And as such, it's putting us at risk as conservatives, and it's putting gun owners at risk, and it's putting their profits at risk when there's the inevitable backlash and companies have to answer for their political stands.
Well, exactly, and it goes to the other side as well. When you have companies that do stand up or do take a stand for something that we agree on, they oftentimes will face a backlash from people who disagree. I for one believe this. I'm like, look, you know what? You're a corporation. If you provide me jeans or clothes, just make my clothes. I believe the same thing about athletes and entertainers. If I went to see you sing, just shut up and sing. If I'm going to, watch a sporting event, I'm not interested in politics in my sports. By the way, any more that I'm interested in listening to a politician comment to me or tell me about sports. I'm not interested in watching politicians play basketball. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to hear basketball players talking to me about guns.
Well, there's an idea among the corporate culture right now that they're looking at millennial customers. They're looking, in the case of Nike, they're looking at the sneakerheads who will go out and buy the $200 sneakers. And they're thinking that if they offend the people who like the Betsy Ross shoe, didn't support Colin Kaepernick's stand against it, that it doesn't matter. They're not going to be buying the Colin Kaepernick signature shoe or something like that. And so they marginalize that segment of the population. But what I don't think they realize is that conservative customers, the people who were offended by the Betsy Ross shoe thing, they're not going to buy Nike stuff ever again. They will go to Adidas, they will go to Under Armour, although I have problems with Under Armour, and they will go to other places. They'll go to Walmart and buy the Walmart brand shoe. And at some point in time, Nike may slip up. They may have a Me Too moment. They may say, their executive may say something wrong. The other competition might sign the hot new athletic prospect, and all the millennial types will run to that other company or go to some other company and get their shoes. And the conservatives are already gone. So Nike will have put themselves in a situation where they have no customers now. Well, these companies need to be neutral in their politics.
Well, no, I completely agree, because what a lot of them don't realize is those millennials who like their stuff and buy their stuff, a lot of times it's the conservative parents who are the ones who are paying the bill.
Good point. Yeah, just the market's fickle, and these people need to realize. Another good example is Dick's Sporting Goods. Last year, after Parkland, they went and took certain guns and accessories out of their stores, and they upped the age to buy a gun to 21, which is of course well above the age to be able to serve in the military and carry a weapon. And they also actually even put money into lobbying efforts against guns. Now, this is crazy for Dick's, because not only does Dick's sell guns in the regular sporting goods store, but they also have an additional chain called Field and Stream, which is hunting and camping. So I went to the meeting and brought this up and had a private back and forth with the CEO after the meeting, and telling them that they're cutting their legs off in the fact that they're not only are they going to lose the people that were going to buy guns. No one's going to want to buy a gun at Dick's anymore, but they're not going to buy golf clubs. They're not going to buy soccer balls. They're not going to buy the hunting and camping equipment at any of the stores. And as a result, I mean, I got dismissed at the time, and the CEO actually told me he didn't care if I didn't go to his store anymore. But they lost $150 million over the course of last year. They're just starting to claw out of it, but I would say that they're probably still at risk of losing the Field and Stream chain, because if you have a choice to buy anything in the sporting goods category, let alone guns, a person who is a strong Second Amendment advocate, or just a friend of the Constitution, or been told by one of their friends, they're going to go someplace else. At my shopping area, the Dick's is there, but there's a Moe's across the street, there's a Walmart in the area, and of course I can always go home and go on to Amazon. So they're killing themselves.
Exactly. And unfortunately, you know, I think not enough people. I mean, the biggest challenge we have is it seems like more and more there are more and more companies. If I were to boycott every single company that did or said something that I was opposed to, I don't know where I would buy. I don't know where I would buy or be able to do anything. But I do know that when I can find an opportunity, like I said, to do something different, this company A, is fighting against my right to keep and bear arms, and company B either supports my right to keep and bear arms, which would be great, or at the very least is not working against my right to keep and bear arms. If I got an option, I'm going with company B.
Yeah, I mean, in the soda area, I mean, like Coke and Pepsi, both equally bad politically, but we've tried to work with both companies over the years to bring them to a more neutral political stance. And in some cases, I think Pepsi recently signed on to our proposal that they would look for board members that have a diverse political background.
Right.
And so, I mean, that may bring some more ideas into the boardroom that haven't been heard before, and maybe you will see a more moderation of the company. But we don't even ask for a company to change their politics. They can, I mean, the board can believe what they want. They can do anything. They can have all the beliefs that they want. We just want them to be politically neutral. We don't want them to be able to put themselves at risk by jumping into some liberal policy that they think is gonna help them out, but in many respects, it's going to actually hurt them. Like we talked about Dick's, we talked about Levi's, which is having their stock went from $22 a share to it's currently $16 a share since that shareholder meeting. And that's because of the tight clothing market has forced people to make choices. And I'm not saying that my concerns were the reason why they're doing poorly. I'll be happy to have people give me credit for it, but they have put themselves in a situation where people are making choices, and undoubtedly the liberal viewpoints that come out of Levi's company, whether it be the environment, whether it be their LGBTQ and LMNOP, whether all the other policies that they sign on to, I think people are going away from Levi's because of that reason, and they'll go to places like Wrangler. They'll go to Walmart. I think that they're selling more jeans at Costco now than they're selling than Levi's is selling. So they have competition that they need to be aware of, mindful of, and respectful of people's political views, because it's going to come back and hurt them.
Exactly. So, hey, do me a favor before we let you go. Tell our folks a little bit about the National Center for Policy Research and how they can follow your work.
First of all, they can go to our website, which is www.nationalcenter.org, nationalcenter.org, and you can see our two main programs are the Free Enterprise Project, which is what we've been talking about today, where we try to hold companies to their free market principles. And then also we have Project 21, which is a conservative group for African Americans. We try to give the political diversity of the African American community a leg up. And so we have a lot of people that are willing to speak out on issues. They were talking about, we have a thing called the Blueprint for a Better Deal for Black America, which goes across 10 different policy areas: immigration, criminal justice reform, voting rights, things like that, and offer conservative solutions to those ideas.
Well, sir, thank you so very much. We very much appreciate you coming on the program. And, thank you for the work that you do. And hopefully we'll get a chance to have you on in the future.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
All righty. You take care. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Mr. David Almasi with the National Center for Public Policy Research. All right, folks. Well, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing this program and telling your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Remember, got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.